Global Hand Washing Day is celebrated annually on October 15. This international observance aims to raise awareness about the importance of hand washing with soap as a simple, effective way to prevent diseases and save lives. The day was first celebrated in 2008, initiated by the Global Hand Washing Partnership, a coalition of organizations promoting hand washing habits. Since then, it has become a key event in promoting global health and hygiene. The day's theme varies each year, focusing on issues like hand hygiene in healthcare, schools, and communities. Global Hand Washing Day is crucial as hand washing with soap can reduce diarrheal diseases by 25 to 50% and respiratory infections by 16 to 21%. According to the World Health Organization, inadequate hand hygiene causes millions of deaths annually. By promoting hand washing practices, this day helps to prevent illnesses, protects vulnerable populations, and supports overall community well-being. Governments, organizations, and individuals worldwide participate in events, campaigns, and educational activities to emphasize the life-saving power of clean hands. Thanks for joining us. I am Eucharia Clinton, and welcome to Nigeria Today. Joining us to discuss the importance of clean hands is Nta News24. He's the head of programs, Water Aid Nigeria. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us for the conversation is Jane Bevan. She's a UNICEF Chief of WASH. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
Now, I'll start with you, Jane. Tell us what is so important or so significant about hand washing that a day was set aside to mark this practice?
Well, thanks. It's a really good question, and hand washing is actually the single simplest, most effective and cost-effective vaccination, if you like, that we can administer ourselves to really help prevent the transmission of diseases amongst people. So the simple act of washing your hands at the critical moments, such as before you eat, before you prepare food, or after you've been to the toilet, are really important times to make sure that you're not spreading any pathogens around to other people.
Thank you. Now, to you, Nampet, she talked about, the times when one should wash their hands. Now, one will readily ask, a lot has been talked about diseases and all of that. So what's really the connection, between hand washing and overall well-being?
Okay, thank you very much. I'd say this connection, our hands easily get to our mouths. And then you would not realize that until you have a diarrhea and you have to do a fast race to the toilet. Mm-hmm. And then it dawns on you, so what really happened? And so the transmission, you touch things, and then how did it get down there? And then, so our overall well-being, it's important to the point where it affects literally everything, and where does it start? It starts by you've ingested the wrong thing and it's gone into your system, and then suddenly you're not excited about anything. You're ill, you're unable to do your work, you're unable to chase whatever you are focusing on for the day. So that's where we would place it.
Okay. Back to you, Jane. We talk about hand washing, and of course, for you to have a good hand wash, you need water. Right?
You do.
Now, how can you drive home the importance of washing your hands in an environment or a community, for instance, where access to water is limited?
I agree it's challenging, and there's often higher priorities in people's minds for using the water, not least for drinking, but it actually takes very little water to wash your hands. You only need to just moisten them and add some soap, and then rinse them. I mean, you can do it. I know we always do it under a running tap in an urban setting, but you really don't have to use that much water. So it is possible to minimise the amount of water. But I would still urge people in water challenge situations to really maintain the hygiene, because this is how diseases do spread.
Well, back to you, Manfred. In a situation where there is no water, what can those people do? They still want to be clean. They still want their hands to be clean, and they still want to have, they'll be healthy. So what should be done in this situation? So
that's interesting and quite difficult a lot of times. However, you need to keep your hands dry. In the past, we've, and I think practical times where you don't have anything, you use ash. You know, ash draws out all moist, and so as long as your hands are really, really dry, moist-free, where you don't have water, your nearest option is to use really dry ash, and that's available in the communities. Because the important thing is to keep your hands really, really dry. And I think, like Jane said, it's though it's it can be challenging not to have the water, but a lot of times what you really need is not that much in terms of washing. And you're looking at, and then the important thing we've not even spoken about, soap, which is also the other factor, because if your water is not clean enough, the soap does make the difference. And what we're advocating is hand washing with water and soap. So we don't try to separate the two. It's not the same thing. Well,
Jane, can you tell us? Of course, we've talked about okay, if there's if there's limited water and all of that. But can you explain to us the benefits of hand washing? Because a couple of times people tend to overlook this practice.
Yes, I mean, there are huge benefits, and as you mentioned in your introduction, you know, we know that it's been proven to reduce diarrheal diseases significantly. We know it was heavily promoted during COVID to prevent the transmission of that bacteria as well, virus, sorry, and we know as well that there are many other diseases, including cholera, of course, which is outbreaking in various places around Nigeria at the moment, and monkeypox as well, which is also an issue. All of these diseases, transmission can be significantly reduced by washing hands. So it's really, really important.
Okay. Now, back to you, Nanpet. You know, just like she rightly mentioned, the time of the COVID, people were actually rushing to wash their hands. There was Ebola. People were going to always wash their hands, always keep your hands clean. You know, but you now realize that when all these diseases were like, when they were no longer in the news or making the headlines, people relax a little bit, you know, in terms of, you know, washing their hands and all of that. So how do you keep the pace? How do you encourage people to continue to wash their hands, even if there are no news of these outbreaks and all of that?
So yes, I think as development partners, one of the things we've really promoted it. It's why we're even commemorating a day like this, the Global Hand Washing Day. It needs to be a practice, and it takes time to get that as a habit. There are quite a lot of creative ways, putting nudges, signposts, wash your hands. Stepping out of the toilet, did you remember to wash your hands? Ensuring that at institutions and public places you have a hand washing station. Once you see a hand washing station, you would want to wash your hands. So that's a subtle reminder. We started schools. Kids are quite impressionable. They learn quickly, they imbibe it, and they keep going. If your child challenges you at home, Mom, I saw you coming out of the bathroom, but you didn't wash your hands, and you just held a piece of bread, that reminds you. We need to take the education down to the younger ones. The older ones, we need nudges, reminders. We need global days like this. We can't wait for another epidemic for us to get back to our senses.
So, Jane, tell us, today is World Hand Washing Day. So tell us what activities took place today. What happened, actually?
Well, I think there was a walk where many people were wearing the outfits and the caps especially, and banners about the event. And then there was a meeting together with the minister, but he was very ably represented by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, where we met together with several development partners and different ministries, but also with children from different schools across Abuja, and some youth activists from the NYSC who did a little skit for us about the perils of not hand washing. So it was a whole event, and we had a formal kind of hand washing where we all got photographed washing our hands as well. So it was a really super event.
I hope you brought the soap for us because here we also love to wash our hands because they do World Hand Washing Day. We'll take a short break now and listen to some Nigerians on the street about what they know about hand washing. Don't go away.
Regularly because you stay away from germs and other diseases.
I think you should wash your hands at least twice a day.
Okay.
Before and after meals.
In the morning I wash my face. When I return from outing, I do that because I may have handled currency, handled so many other things, touch balconies, walk, and so I always wash. I'm conscious of that when I get back to the house before meal, after meal. Those ones are basic, but like doing consciously beyond the eating time and after eating, I always do that because while I was in school in ABU, we're part of some of these programs, so somehow it's ingrained in me.
Because most times germs starts from the hands. You shake people, you touch people, you hug people, and you don't know where they've been, what they have come in contact with. So the importance of keeping your hands clean as much as possible, washing them, cannot be overemphasized.
Yes, through your hands, germs can get to your mouth. Like when you don't wash your hands and you eat food, germs can get into your system. And it's not healthy for the skin also to touch yourself with dirty hands.
Well, I try to wash my hands as many times as possible because our hands are always in use. We use our hands a lot, and that way we get into contact with a lot of germs. So I don't have like a specific time that I wash my hands. I wash my hands all the time.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Nigeria Today, and we're talking about the importance of clean hands. And I have with me here in the studio a lady and a gentleman. Now, you have the reaction of people there. Now, what are some of the misconceptions about hand washing? I'll tell you one before you start. I know some persons say if you wash your hand too much, you wash away your destiny.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so, yeah, it's... Incidentally, Jane and I were having a conversation earlier about some of the misconceptions around that. And first thing to think, if you just soak your hands in water, it's a bit okay. We talked about now there's no epidemic, or at least maybe. Nobody thinks it's important. Somebody interestingly felt that why is cholera out there? It's a disease of the poor. Why are we experiencing it in Abuja or things like in urban centers? And that's a big misconception because there's no badge. Illnesses and diseases as a result of poor hygiene don't select who they attack. And we saw it during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it didn't select the poorest of the poor. And I think it's a big misconception to just think that it's not going to affect me.
It's not my portion.
Yes, yeah. So by proclamations,
it's not my portion.
No, proclamations won't help in this matter.
Of course, you have to walk the talk. Talk to us, Jane. How can schools and communities promote better hand washing habits?
I think the key is to make it fun. I think hand washing can be fun, especially if you're doing it with kids. And if you make it part of the routine and make it part of everyday life, and always, you know, you can have fun coloured soaps, fun shaped soaps, fun ways of pouring the water, all sorts of things. Do it all together, have a race, all sorts of things. I think it was very interesting that none of your correspondents there that you spoke to mentioned after the toilet, which to me is the most significant and key time when you should be washing your hands. Maybe they were just being a bit polite, but I think we need to call it what it is. This is the most significant time. And so helping kids to really encourage them to wash their hands as they come out of the school toilets, really, really important.
And talking about making it fun, I once stumbled on one, video. She was making a song and telling them how to wash their hands, 20 seconds or 20 minutes, 1, 2, 3. So, it's, well, just like you said, it's, if you make it fun, it will not be like you're doing something that's not like part of you, you know, you really enjoy doing it. Now, what role does, what role does this hand washing play? Is it just restricted because you keep talking about children? Now, what about the adults? How can you make it fun for the adults? Because you're talking about making it fun for the kids, but it also has to be fun for the adults. So how can you do that?
Yes, I would say the constant reminders, but then it doesn't have to feel like work. I think for the adults, we are probably more motivated by a sense of duty. What drives the adult is slightly different from the kids. But for the adult, a sense of duty, I would like to feel protected. If I'm sure you've washed your hands, then a handshake would be okay. And so vice versa. So there's that sense of protection, that sense of duty. I think for adults, we need to look at it that way. Yes, Jane did say it has to be fun, which is why we said nudges. It's constant reminder, turn left here. In driving, the traffic signs are nudges. Remember to turn left at the intersection, I think.
Another question is, there's this, I can't really remember this form of disease that when you always go to clean your hands, they tell you to be, affected by that particular, I can't really remember. LCD, LCD. That when you're always going to wash your hands, how can you,
I don't think we need to worry about that. I think if we can just get to doing our hands at these key critical times, it would be really important. And as Nampet rightly said, I think any nudges that we can have, and I would really appeal to anybody who's in the catering business, for example, or restaurants, have the tap and the soap right out front, so that people really, find it easy to access the soap and water before they sit down to eat. And similarly, in public buildings, in government buildings, we need to make it freely and readily available for everybody to use, so that it's not a luxury. It should be a common facility for everybody.
What role can the government play in all of this? Because you see most of the organizations, although back in the days when we had the COVID, we had where they wash their hands, but you see that most of them, when you go there to wash your hands, is no longer running. It's no longer running. So how can the government come in here? Well, not just the government, but also corporate organizations, private organizations, community. How can they, come in to ensure that these practice is continued, not just because there's an outbreak or a pandemic or here or there. So how can the government come in here?
I think everybody can get involved. It really cuts across absolutely every sector, and we all need to be doing this. And I think leading by example is absolutely key. So in any office, I hope, for example, here, if I go to the bathroom, there will be soap and running water, and in any government building... We have running
water here.
Good. In any government building, it should be exactly the same.
We have running water, we have soap.
Excellent. Excellent. So, so I'm the soap police.
So how now tell us the role of the parents here, the role of the parents in educating or teaching their children the importance of hand washing. Talk to the parents, to know what they should be doing to ensure that the children cultivate the habit of hand washing.
Okay, so to the parents, I would say live by examples. Jane said we need to live by example. You owe it a sense of duty and responsibility to your children to educate them. Education on hand washing, basic hygiene, really, studies have shown that it cuts close to, I think it improves by about 40% in terms of practice. So when you have deliberate education, during the pandemic, we were teaching basic steps, things you take for granted. You have to scrub, you have to do this, you have to, parents need to see it, because the pain of losing a child to preventable diarrhea, waterborne diseases.
And they are the vulnerable population.
And they are the vulnerable population. It's critical. You're a nursing mother and you don't wash your hands before breastfeeding, for example. I think the fear of the pain should motivate us also at this point. And as parents, you want to see your children develop well, grow and do well. I would say to the parents, this education, make it a priority. You want to see them live longer, so invest in the education for the kids.
Now, John, tell us how many minutes or seconds do you need to wash your hand, and how properly do you need to wash your hands? Because just like Nanpet said, some will just dip their hands and say they've washed their hands. When they go there, they just keep their hand under the running water, and they remove it. They say, I've washed my hands. So
yeah, that's not really counting, unfortunately. So I don't think there's any official line on how long you should do it, but if you're being really thorough, I remember hearing during COVID that humming the Happy Birthday to You song all the way through, that should be about the right amount of time.
So how well should you wash the hands? Or just dip it in water?
Well, there is evidence that if you have anything on your hand, like rings, for example, that you should take them off, because the germs can linger under them. So if you want to be very surgical, in these medical programs, they're always like they have nothing on their hands, they even touch the tops with their elbows and all of this. I don't think we need to be that surgical about it just for daily life, but it's important to consider any obstacles that you have on your hands that could trap germs. It's actually not very helpful.
And how far can you wash? Some wash up to this extent?
I guess it depends how dirty you got, but I would say up to your wrist is probably absolutely
up
fine.
To your wrist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And wash with the soap, right?
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so how can we, leverage technology, social media, to create awareness for this hand washing, Nanpet?
Yeah, so the campaigns are one. This and it shouldn't end today, the 15th. We should go beyond this. What we're doing with children in schools, it's important. So I would say the campaign, it needs to be everybody's business. It needs to be in our faces, everybody's faces in the markets. So when we say campaigns, I think it's not just this one-off thing. It needs to be about it. It needs to be regular. It needs to be in everybody's face. There has to be these constant reminders. You pick your phone, you're on the social media, it's there. You're out in the market. It's Jane said, it's first vaccine. It's that vaccine and cheapest, most affordable vaccine. And I think if it's out there and we have the sense of responsibility about protecting ourselves and others around us, then we will remember that.
Okay, and Jane, in 30 seconds, talk to the audience about the overall practice of hand washing.
Okay, well, I'd really like to appeal to your viewers today to be the change that you want to see. I think if we all wash our hands and we take responsibility for that, and we encourage others to do it, and call out others that we see not doing it, we'll gradually build the momentum of the social norm that we need to have to ensure good health for all of our children.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll wrap up today's episode of Nigeria Today. Very big thank you to Jane Devon. She's the UNICEF Chief of Watch. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And also we had Nanpet Chuktu, the Head of Programs, Water Aid Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being part of the program. Remember, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I am your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.